Hello, this is Sudhir Kumar Dwivedi, Assistant Professor of Law from Gemtech School of Law, Greater Noida. The topic for today's lecture is Test Identification Parade under the subject Law of Evidence. In this lecture, we will learn about what is the Test Identification Parade, what is the procedure of the Test Identification Parade. First of all, it is important to know what is identification parade. An identification parade is an important process in the administration of justice where the court has to know the identity of anything or any person, any fact which establish such identity is relevant. The identity of a person can be established by the evidence of the person who know him. Identification parade are held for the purpose of identifying the persons concerned in an offense or the properties which are subject matter of an offense. So, if we analyze this definition, we find that as general, the identification of anything can be done. It may be identification of person, it may be identification of any uh, you can say object. It depends, but here we are concerned for the identification of the person who are supposed to be involved in any offense or the properties which is the subject matter of the offense. Section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act provides that the purpose of identification test is to test the memory of and veracity of the witness who claims to identify an accused person who is said to have participated in the crime. So, if we, as per section 9, the test identification parade solve two problems. First, it will establish the veracity of the witness who is going to identify the person. Second, it will be helpful for the court to decide the case to rely on the statement of the witness. So, as per section 9, which is related with the facts which are necessary to explain or introduce relevant facts. Section 9 provides that facts necessary to explain or introduce a fact in issue or relevant fact are which support or rebut an inference suggested by a fact in issue or relevant fact are which establish the identity of anything or person whose identity is relevant or fix the time or place at which any fact in issue or relevant fact happened, or which show the relation of parties by whom such fact was transacted are relevant in so far as they are necessary for that purpose. So, if you analyze the section 9, then you will find that section 9 declares various type of facts relevant, and such fact may be explanatory fact or may introducing or giving some identification of some object or person. So if you see the fourth line, you will find that facts which are necessary to explain or introduce fact issue and which establish the identity of any person or persons whose identity is relevant. So any fact which establish the identity of the person whose identity is important for the case, then those facts will be relevant. On this line, the basic concept of the test identification period is established. So, if the person identify the person who is, if any witness identify a person who is supposed to be or who is accused to be of a crime, then the witness may identify that accused, and this fact that the witness has identified the accused is a relevant fact under section 9, because section 9 declares that facts are relevant which identify the person whose identity is relevant. So here the identity of the accused is relevant because it will establish that he is the person who has committed the crime. So if the accused has been identified by the witness, then this statement, this fact that he has been identified by the witness is relevant under section 9. We can understand it by few examples, illustration which has also been provided in Ware Act. Let's see. The first illustration is that the question is whether a given document is will of a state or property and of his family at the date of the alleged bill may be relevant fact. The question is whether a given document is bill of A. This is the fact and issue that whether any document is bill of A or not. And this fact, the states of A's property at that time and his state of his family members at that date may be relevant because it may be having some explanatory fact which may be helpful to decide whether the said document is bill of A or not. It is to be kept in mind that it is not necessary that these explanatory facts will establish the case or the fact. The word required by the section is that it may be helpful, that's why they have been declared as a relevant. Next example, you can say A sues B for a level imputing uh, disgraceful conduct to A. B affirms that the matter alleged to be libelous is true. The position and relation of the parties at the time when the libel was published may be relevant fact as introductory to the fact in issue. So what was the position at the time when that fact was published? What was the relation of the parties when that fact was published, which is said to be libelous? What was the exact position and relation of those parties may be helpful to decide as an introductory fact, means to say it may be helpful to decide what were the circumstances, what is the things, whether they are true or not. They may be helpful to introduce the concept of that libelous fact. It is not necessary they are going to establish the truthfulness or of the fact. It may be as a just an introductory fact that may be helpful for the court to decide the case. The particulars of dispute between A and B about a matter unconnected with the alleged libel are irrelevant, though the fact that there was a dispute may be relevant if affected the relation between A and B. So the facts which are not having any connection with the fact in issue are irrelevant. However, if there is some facts which are showing that there were some dispute, it may be helpful for the court to decide the fact and issue, because they may be some having an explanatory fact that there was already a dispute. So it is quite possible that some libelous fact may have been published. So it may be just an explanatory fact. It is not necessary that it will establish the fact. That's why these have been declared as a relevant fact under section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act. The next illustration is accused of a crime. The fact that soon after the commission of a crime, he absconded from his house is relevant under section 8 as a conduct subsequent to and affected by fact issue. So here the question is whether A has committed a crime or not, and this fact was established that uh, Mr. is soon absconded from his house is relevant under section 8 because it is a subsequent act, subsequent conduct which has been declared as relevant under section 8. Previous and subsequent conduct has been declared as relevant under section 8. In the same way, the fact that at the time when he left home he had sudden and urgent business at the place to which he went is relevant as tending to explain the fact that he left home suddenly. So if there is some explanatory fact that why he left the home all of sudden, then that fact will explain the situation that why he left all of sudden, and that explanatory fact will be relevant under section 9. The first fact that he just left the home soon after the uh, commission of a crime is relevant under section 8 as a subsequent conduct, and the fact which is going to explain why he left the house because there was a certain urgent work, and this explanatory fact is relevant under section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act. Now next illustration is that A sues B for inducing C to break a contract of service made by him with A. C, on leaving A service, says to A, I am leaving you because B has made me a better offer. The statement is a relevant fact as explanatory of C's conduct, which is relevant in fact and issue. A has filed a case against B that he induces the C to break a contract which was between C and A, and on leaving A's service, C has said to A that I am leaving because B has made me better offer. So somehow this statement that I am leaving you because B has made me a better offer may be explanatory of the fact and circumstances. Whether Mr. B has induced the C or not, it may be helpful to decide that. That's why this fact has been declared as a relevant under section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act, because the fact in issue whether Mr. B induces the C or not, this is the fact in issue, and this fact that A said that I am leaving because B has made me better offer may have some explanation whether some inducement from the side of B was there or not. That's why these facts have been declared as relevant under section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act. Let's see the next illustration. A, accused of the theft, is seen to give the stolen property to B, who is seen to give it to A's wife. B says, as he delivers it, A says, you are to hide this. B's statement is relevant as explanatory of fact, which is part of the transaction. So, A, accused of a theft, is seen to give a stolen property to B, who is seen to give it to A's wife. The fact is that A is accused and he has handed over some stolen property to B, and B handed over the property to A's wife. And while he was handing over the property to A's wife, he said that A has said that you hide this property. So the word that you hide is showing some intention, some explanation that what type of property it may be, because that is part of that transaction, which may be helpful to explain the transaction. That's why, since it is a explanation to the transaction which is in issue, is relevant under Section 9 of the Indian Evidence Act. Now, A is tried for a riot and proved to have marched at the head of the mob. The cries of the mob are relevant as explanatory of the nature of the transaction. So, if it is there is a question whether A has taken part in a riot or not, and it is proved that where he was standing or in which march he was taking part, they were crying some statement which is of the nature to explain what type of the mob was going on. So that may be relevant as an explanatory fact regarding the fact whether the mob was a riot or not. Now, let's see what are the precautions to be taken for carrying identification parade. Following precaution is to be taken for carrying identification parade. It should be fair and seems to be fair, and every precaution must be taken to exclude any suspicion of unfairness or risk of erroneous identification to through the witness. The investigation officer concerned with the case against the suspect, if present, must not take part in conducting the parade. The parade should be arranged by an officer who is not a police officer. All unauthorized persons should be strictly excluded from the place of identification parade. Then the witness should be prevented from sitting with the suspect before he is paraded with other person, and the witness who have previously seen a photograph or a description of the suspect should not be led in identifying the suspect by reason of their collection of the photograph or description, as for instance by being shown to the photograph or description before the parade. The suspect should be placed among the persons who are far as possible of the same age, height, general appearance, and so and so. Two suspects of roughly of similar are you, there must be, it is important if there is more than two. That will be good to increase the value of the identification parade. Now, this is an important case, Bijayan versus State of Kerala 1999. In this case, where the photograph of the accused was shown to the identifying witness and also the same was published in a local newspaper, the identification parade was worthless. When the witness identifying at a parade failed to identify in the court, the TI parade, the test identification parade, identification lost its important. So if a person's identity has already been revealed in some journal paper, or a photograph already has been shown to the witness, then it will lose the evidentiary value. There will be no value of this such identification parade. Now let's see what will be the exact procedure for holding the identification parade. First of all, an executive magistrate or honorary magistrate or judicial magistrate, if called upon for the purpose of the holding an identification parade, he should remember that he will be the full and sole charge of the entire proceeding. After that, he should first acquaint himself with the fact of the case and found out which is to be put in the parade, who is to be put in the parade for identification, and who are the witnesses to be called for the identification. Then two independent respectable person not connect with the police should be called. The executive magistrate will question them and satisfy himself that they are independent and fairly intelligent person. The parade should then be arranged in a room or a place which is such that the identifying witness as well as the person connected with the police should not be able to look into it. After that, if there is only one accused person to be identified, there should be at least half a dozen persons placed in the parade. If two accused persons are to be identified, then there should be about 10 to 12 persons in the parade. And the executive magistrate or the honorary magistrate, judicial magistrate should be that they are persons of more or less the same physical appearance and approximately of the same age as the person to be identified. Then no person other than person in the parade and the two respectable persons should be allowed to remain in the room where the identification proceedings are being held. All the police officers and constables should be asked to withdraw themselves completely from the room. They should not be visible from the room or place where the parade is being held. After the parade is arranged, one of the two respectable persons should be sent up to bring the accused from lockup. Case should be taken to see that when the accused is being brought from the lockup, the identifying witness do not have any opportunity of seeing him. They should be kept in a quiet, different room out of the sight of the lockup. Then the executive magistrate at this stage should commence the to write memorandum. It should include the memorandum should include the place at which and the date on which parade is being held and the time at which it was commenced, the name, occupation and full address of two respectable person, the name and approximate age of the person standing in the parade, mentioning clearly one below the another in numerical order their position in the parade, the fact that no person other than those in parade and the two respectable persons were allowed to remain in the room, and that all the police officer and constable were asked to withdraw. The respectable person only to fetch the accused person from the lockup, and that identifying witnesses were in a different room so that they could not see him being brought from the lockup up to the identification room. And when the accused brought, the executive magistrate or the honorary magistrate should ask him to take whatever place he likes in the parade. The place which he selects should be noted in the memorandum. The accused should then be asked if he wants to make any alteration in his dress. He may change his cap or coat, or he may decide to put on or remove a cap or coat. He should be allowed to do this, and that fact should be noted in the memorandum. After that, then one of the respectable persons should be asked to bring first identifying witness from the room in which he may be sitting. When the witness arrives, the executive magistrate, honorary magistrate should questioning and ascertaining from him whether he had opportunity to see the culprit at any time subsequent to the offense or after the arrest. The witness then be asked to view the parade carefully and see whether he would be able to identify the person or not. The identifying witness will then go up and look closely at the parade. If he identifies any person, he should be asked to go forward to touch that person or to point him from a near distance. The fact that the identifying witness identified the accused should be noted at the memorandum along with the name of the accused, and also note the fact that if he failed to identify him or identified the wrong person, that should be entered in the memorandum. After that, the procedure should be followed each subsequent identifying witness. Then when all the identifying witnesses are exhausted one after the other, the memorandum should be completed stating the time at which it was concluded, Then the memorandum should be read over and explained to the respectable person in language which they understand. After that, after the memorandum is completed, executive magistrate should make endorsement at the end. He himself should also sign every sheet of the memorandum. The memorandum should be handed over to the police officer concerned. The memorandum should be written in the language of the court. That's all about the concept of the test identification parade. The procedure of the test identification parade in nutshell and last it can be understand that the very basic purpose of the test identification parade is to establish the identity of the person and in the same way to establish the veracity of the witness.